Well, here we are with this car from Schaumburg. But I want to show you guys something. See how bright those are? See how that one's dead? See how bright that one is? I got myself some new lights. So the shop is actually much brighter than it's ever been before. But yeah, so I've been told by 3 people to scrap this thing. You can see the bumpers ripping off. That's not a big issue. That frame is nasty. There is a massive kink right there. This frame here is like twisting. As you can see, she's kind of like rolling on itself, which is definitely a little bit different. Struts are good. Transmission is bad, completely bad. It's horrible. In the back, everything came in really nice in the back. I got 1 flat tire back here, and I got 1 bad spindle. Cleaned right off. So everybody's telling me to scrap this thing, but I don't know. I don't think she's ready to go to scrap yet. Front of the frame can still go 100 times worse than what it is. I'm debating on putting a new motor into this. Well, sorry, I'm debating on putting a new transmission into this, but I don't know. Again, no matter what, the motor's got to come out, so I might pull the motor and then take a second look at stuff, and maybe I can put a plate here when the motor's out. I'm not going to bend it straight again. I don't have the means. I don't have a frame puller. I can try to use the hoist and then heat it up, but honestly, I'll just throw a plate or 2 onto it and hopefully go from there. This side here, I don't even know what I'm going to do here. But the one thing I am going to probably do is start running transmission coolers. I used to do it all the time, and I kind of stopped just because it was easier just to loop the lines. But I'm going to bigger and bigger shows now, and oh, this tie rod's bent too. I forgot about that. And I think that transmission coolers are a must at bigger shows. So like I said, we're just going to hopefully get an engine crane, lift this motor out tonight, have it sitting on the ground for tomorrow. I do work tomorrow, so Saturday, going into work on a Saturday again. Serenity now. But anyway, we're going to just basically take this motor out, put it on the ground, and kind of reassess where this thing is. See if it's worth putting another motor back into this thing. I think it is. Everybody's telling me it's not, but I think it is. So let's get going at this, I think. We have got a lot of work done to this car. I didn't really film any of it because I was just kind of picking away at it every night after work. We are here Saturday morning at 7:15 in the morning, and this thing is about ready to drive out. All my friends are just waking up, so they're starting to message me. We ended up putting a new transmission onto this. We did not get a new torque converter because nobody would give me one. I want to do a shout out to Roy, who sold me a transmission. This is in here well enough to drive. It is obviously not in here 100% done. The throttle cable isn't hooked up. We've got 2 lug nuts on every tire. So we pulled the motor out, put a new transmission on it, put it back in, and I gave it a test fire. It moves forward and backwards. That's 100 times better than what it was doing before. We still haven't straightened the frame and plated that up. I should have done it when the motor was out, but I kind of got to move the car around to do that. Some things I noticed, the subframe is actually bent towards the motor and then comes back. So I think this thing was taking some nasty shots here in the front end. You know it's pretty nasty when the motor mount splits. Your factory piece goes down and your aftermarket motor mount comes up. So those were some pretty big hits that I was taking. I think that was a Buddy's square tubing right there, to be honest. Power steering I don't think is going to work anymore. It didn't really work to begin with, so I'm not super upset with that. The motor's pushed back so far that the factory bolts no longer line up, and you can actually see where it's eaten away into it because of inside the ring. So we're going to have to change out that piece to a different piece. Didn't bend any struts, which was pretty nice. Strut towers did kind of rotate a bit, and it did push into the firewall, just like all my Camrys are starting to do. But that's all done. Oh, another thing is this strut tower here, as you can see, is being pushed in I'm going to have to start removing this stuff. It's not functional because this used to be an old body motor and now it's a new body motor, coil packs. So I'm going to have to take this off. This is part of the California emissions that comes on some of these cars, so it's really deleted anyway. It's got to come off there so it does not break my master off. As you can see, it's already kind of into it. The interior of the car is pretty much fine. I have zero issues with anything. Driver's side rear tower did rip away from the speaker deck, but the cage is holding it there. Obviously that's kind of smashed in. One of the hardest things to do on these is get the bolt out of the back of this. And when I'm talking the bolt, I mean this bolt. Getting that out to change these back spindles is a nightmare. I'm going to say that job was harder than changing the transmission. But on a funny note, I did lose 2 inches of wheelbase on this car. I'm now sitting at 102.5 on this car for wheelbase. So I find that funny. I think it's a combination of the front end coming back and the back end coming forward. But I do want to start this thing up and drive it out of my shop, but it is way too early and my neighbors are going to freak on me. So I think that this thing's going to sit here until about 10:30, 11 o'clock this morning, and it's going to drive out and go into another shed. So it'll be out of the rain, it'll be out of the elements, and the hood's up on the roof. I might try to pull these out a bit, but when I straighten this, we'll see how ambitious I get. To straighten it, I'm just going to make it basically glow red with the torch. I'm going to use the frame, put it underneath the subframe, put some chains on that to the ground, and try to see if I can bend that puppy back down. And hopefully I don't damage the sub, but I think it'll be okay. Motor on this car did not skip a beat. It did die in my heat. And the only reason for that is the negative came off the battery, so that tells me that you are not charging. So anyway, that is the only issue that I had with this whole car, the entire Derby, other than the transmission, but the transmission's now been replaced and the other one's already off to the scrapyard. This one here, the selector is broken off, but all I'm going to do is take my mini grinder and clean that up so there's no rust on it, and I'm going to weld my selector back onto it so that way I get the gears. I break those off all the time. It's not a big issue. But overall, car will run again. It's taken me about a week and a half to get it put back together, mostly because of work. I've been working, again, some crazy hours. Just to show you guys how much and how busy I have been, I still haven't even taken the GoPros off of this car yet to edit the videos up. So those will be coming out of here probably today, and I'll be editing them tonight and getting them up on the internet. They'll probably already be up by the time this video's up, but yeah, just super busy. Back end is perfect on this thing. Other than the speaker deck ripping away, but let's face it, it does that in all my Camrys. But this one here is coming in so smoothly. The frame comes down, flips over, and comes back. And there's the toe point. So even if that comes right down now at the rear sub, it's still not going to touch the ground. That is perfect. But this is another reason why I don't like square tubing. You can see where the square tubing is hit here quite drastically. I am a firm believer that if you want square tubing, you should be able to put a skin over it to make it look like a bumper. Stuff bumpers are fine, but square tubing, it just rips doors open. These edges are quite sharp. If you want to run loaded bumpers, but the rules around me is I can run square tubing, I can put a chrome skin on it, but I cannot load a bumper. It really does not make sense to me sometimes, but oh well. I try to follow the rules as best as I can. If I'm allowed to run square tubing, I run it. If I don't, I really enjoy rebar bumpers or just full-size bumpers on these things. I enjoy that too, but square tubing, I think, just rips doors open. But thanks everybody for watching. This thing here will run again. Where? Not sure, but it will run again. I don't think it's got a whole lot of life left in it, but you know that's not going to stop me from just destroying it. But I do love this cage. Somebody asked me what's the advantages of a bolt-in cage, and honestly, I think it's just how easy it is to go in and out from car to car. And it saves you material costs. So I do love this cage in this car. So we will be smashing this again. So thanks guys for watching, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.